Okay, hey, welcome everyone. Welcome to the April Instructor Community Call. My name, as always, is Kyle Rosenthal. I am a Microsoft Certified Trainer as well as an account executive here at Skillable. I really want to thank you very much for taking your time out of your day and or night, depending on which time zone you're in, to join us. Really appreciate it. If you are of a social mind, then make sure that you do post something in one of the socials. So link us either on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram about anything that you're excited about today, or even just the fact that you're attending here. We would certainly appreciate that, as well as I said, appreciating your time for joining us. So for today's agenda, today we're obviously just welcome. We've got some Courseware Marketplace updates. Obviously, there's been some pretty massive changes that have been announced since the last one of our meetings, so since last month. We then do have a very special guest with us this month. So we've got Stephen Rose, who's joining us to give us some of the hints and tips and that sort of thing around Microsoft Teams. And I don't think there's anyone who's probably better qualified to do that. So we'll bring Stephen in shortly, and then we will have a look at some of the instructor offers as well. So just a reminder of those. And then if we've got some time, hopefully, some some conversation resources at the end. So just certainly we've got some resources, but just some, we always try to have some time for a bit of a chit chat at the end as well. All right. So as I said, there's been some pretty massive changes that have happened since the last time that we met. So since March. So first off, we've gone live now with the Azure passes now being issued in the lab environment. So what does that mean? Well, it means for the folk that do the ordering of the Microsoft Labs and that sort of thing for you, there's no need to separately order the Azure passes. On our platform, for those that are familiar, there would have previously been maybe some that were Azure passes and non-Azure passes versions. If the lab does still require Azure passes, then they'll be presented as part of it. And what you'll see in the resources tab is you'll see something similar to what we've got in the bottom corner here. So you'll see the promo code for the Azure Pass within there. So that you still there's still a redemption process and that sort of thing that will still show up for you to be able to go through. But there's no need to separately order those Azure passes. So so if you have questions from from your from the folk that does the organizing for your organization or ordering around that, just assure them they don't have to order them separately. As well as that, as we discussed last month, there is quite a few of the courses that are transitioning away from needing an Azure Pass. So remember I said before that there might be some folk that have had previously the that you might have had to have had or there was an Azure Pass version or a non-Azure Pass version. In those cases, we're transitioning across to the no Azure Pass required version. Okay. So it's big changes. The other big change that was announced during the last month, of course, is the retirement of the Courseware Marketplace. Now that has certainly made some concerns, thoughts, processes, that sort of thing around from customers who have previously been working through the Courseware Marketplace. Just bear in mind that doesn't happen until the end of June, 1st of July. So therefore, if you are a Courseware Marketplace customer currently, you can still operate through the Courseware Marketplace. So no issues with that. but there is now a transition period to start working through. So if your organization does normally order through those, then certainly, contact us through the CWMP migration@skillable.com. Drop an email through to that, and then we'll start working through the process of doing the transition to a direct customer to be able to order through. So just a couple of I guess of little things to bear in mind, but with things with big impacts. So it's been a busy month of getting things ready, and there will be some more updates. That's the thing from our side as we progress towards that end date as well. But certainly, we want to be able to support folk as much as we can, and also make that transition. But I think the main thing is that we've still got a couple of months to be able to get to that point, so don't panic just yet. So but certainly, I would encourage you to have a chat with the person who is doing the ordering in your organization to make sure that they're aware of the changes. Hopefully they are, but that they're not going to get to the end of June or even worse, the 1st of July, and go, where did the Courseware Marketplace go? So if you have a chat with them, we can try and make sure that they're good within there. All right, Tiago, you've got a question?
Yes. Hi, Kyle. Good to see you. Just about the Azure promo code, is that just for the students, or what's the process for the trainer? Is the same? He's also going to get a promo code through this system?
Yes. Yeah. So it'll like when you log in, it'll assign it as part of that course as well. So so
Okay,
you'll have the same the same process. So you'll see the same thing, of course. And Tiago, you'd be well aware of this, but for some others, just make sure that you remember that you have your own MCT subscription as well. So therefore, you might find that actually works a little bit better for you with regards to doing some of your demos and that sort of thing. But certainly, you'll be getting a promo code in there as well. Okay, good question. Thanks, Tiago. All right. So without any further ado, then. Let's move on to Microsoft Teams with Stephen Rose. So I always laugh, like, sort of when you see someone and you go, well, here's someone that needs no introduction, and then there's someone always does an introduction around them. We kind of mix those things up a bit. I'm going to get Stephen to introduce himself. I will say that I've known Stephen for a number of years, and as an Australian, I consider anyone who brings me Vegemite in a conference center a friend, a very deep friend. So welcome, Stephen.
Thanks, Kyle. I just sent you a link to a deck that I'd actually like to have you present so we can do it in PowerPoint live. And if you could make me a presenter, I guess, to turn on my camera or allow that would be great.
Oh, there we go. Yep, so I've got that on.
There we go. Nice.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I was actually wondering. I'm thinking, why isn't Stephen turning on his mic on his camera? Well, that would be because
I did not have the rights. So cool. I sent you in your email that link to a deck, so that way you could run it and do all that. But yeah, I know several of you on here. My name is Stephen Rose. I spent about 14 and a half years at Microsoft leading IT pro readiness for Windows and OneDrive and Office and Teams, and most recently was the host of Inside Microsoft Teams. We had about 2 million views of the show over the 3 years or so that we ran it, and also a lot of our content on Docs. I work very closely with the MS Learn team, the MVPs, etc. Kyle and Diego and so many other folks. Diego on the call that I've worked with over the years. It's just great to see everybody. So Kyle came to me and asked, and I thought, something that might be really kind of fun, and a deck that I've gotten some really good feedback on, a presentation I call a Monday morning presentation, and that is, no matter how great the keynotes are, no matter how great the sessions are, or whatever it is that you're doing at a conference, towards the end of the week, people are exhausted. They've been drinking from a fire hose. They're really out of it. And I found that if I was doing a, third or fourth or fifth presentation on the final day, that doing a Monday morning presentation or things that they could go back to the office on Monday and immediately do would be super beneficial. And that folks would love that because it was quick and easy and simple and things that maybe they weren't aware of, but that they could bring back to the office. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're able to get the deck, Kyle. If not, I can just kind of do it full screen and you can let me know if there's questions.
Yeah, like the link hasn't come through, but if you want to drop it into the I'll just open up a chat window for you if you want to drop it into there.
There we go. Yes, I can do that too. Thank you. Oh, now it's making me authenticate you and accept you and ask, do I trust you? Which is just such a weird ask question that I just don't feel comfortable answering about just about anybody. So hang on.
Well, particularly if you're dealing with an Australian, it's always
you and I have had way too much beer together and way too many cities to even go down that path, but that's just fine. All right. So I picked 10, and I think, the first one is PowerPoint Live, Excel Live, and content sharing. Now, PowerPoint Live is brilliant because this is let me tell you a few things that folks don't know about PowerPoint Live. Number one, did you know that PowerPoint Live only uses 20% of the bandwidth as opposed to full screen sharing? Raise your hand if you knew that. I'm just curious to see how many folks we do. We're going to, come on, you're all trainers and instructors, so you should be able to raise your hand or thumbs up or emoji or something like that if you know it. Nobody knew it. All right. It only uses 20% of the bandwidth. And here's why. If I go here and I say, hey, I want to share this whole deck and I want to share my screen, and I bring up my screen and here is this slide, here's the problem. I am now redrawing every single pixel across this whole screen. And anytime anything changes, I'm now having to redraw all of these pixels. Rather than when I'm using PowerPoint Live and only redrawing the pixels that change, that means I'm using a template. That means that I probably have a title, so very few pixels there, only a few pixels here because, again, very similar what I have. It really means that the only thing that's going to be redrawn fully is going to be this graphic here in the center of my screen as opposed to the Microsoft Loop graphic. When you are doing full screen share, everything is redrawn and you are doing it at a much higher resolution and at, I doubt if many of you are still running 1080, 1020 by 768 resolution. So that becomes a really big thing. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is all of the cool features that it unlocks when you use PowerPoint Live. Were you able to open it, Kyle?
Yeah, just opening it now.
All right. And go ahead and just throw it up in PowerPoint Live.
Yeah.
Now, there's a few cool things. Now, up at the top, you'll notice at the bottom that you see slides 1 through 13. And if you click through them, you're going to be able to move through those. But Kyle, if you go up to the top of the screen in your taskbar, you'll see that there's a little thing that looks like an eyeball that says private up in the top area of the Teams chat. And if you click it, now try to move through the slides, boys and girls. You can't do it. There you go. So you can make it private. Now, here's another cool one down at the bottom. If you are a attendee, you'll see under more actions, you can choose translate slides. Go ahead and do that and pick another language. And you will see the slides magically translate. Kyle won't see this because he's the presenter, but for those of you that are the attendees, you will see the slides magically change into your local language. Isn't that cool? Now, Kyle has another cool feature, being the presenter, is up at the top. He will actually see, down at the bottom, that there are a series of markers and laser pointers where he can actually draw on this slide or highlight. So go ahead and do that, Kyle, if you see it. Do you see it?
Yep. Yep.
So go ahead and pick a slide and pick those drawing tools. And there you go. You can draw, you can use a laser pointer, he can highlight text, nothing is permanent. But this is so great when you're talking about content or you're showing a graphic. And here's the other thing is if you bring up a full screen graphic and share it, not as part of PowerPoint Live, but just in general, you still have these same drawing tools. So you could bring up a GIF or a JPEG or a PDF, and you can mark all that up. As a trainer, and I was a trainer for nearly 9 years working at New Horizons, I used to teach a variety of Microsoft technical certification classes all the way up to about server 2010, I think, was the last time I was still in MCT, but just underlying slides and writing on slides and doing things becomes a huge and really powerful way to be able to keep people engaged. And here's the best part. Kyle can also see the chat. He can still see the video of people. If he has a slide that has notes, he's going to be able to see the speaker notes on it. So do it. The key thing to understand, though, with PowerPoint Live and Excel Live is it has to be in OneDrive or the file has to be in the cloud in order for you to leverage this feature. If it's not in the cloud, it will not work. So if it's just a file on a desktop and you're like, why don't I see present in Teams? That would be why. Excel Live allows users to go into a spreadsheet and to actually manipulate data without changing the original spreadsheet. So this is great if you're saying somebody's like, you create a pivot table and you want people to be able to optimize it for the area where it makes the most sense. This is going to be one of the easiest ways to be able to do that. So PowerPoint Live, how you want to present every deck from this point out to the future. Excel Live, if you want to create a more engaging experience around Excel, allow people to manipulate data, and content sharing when you want to be able to share a PDF or a graphic, but want to be able to write or draw or do things with it, which is absolutely great. All right. Any questions on tips and tricks for presenting in Teams before we go to our next slide? Like I said, this is good content. Monday morning, go back to the office, use it immediately stuff. Now, by the way, the new Teams 2.0 does not support present in Teams. So if you're using the new Teams, it's not going to work. And it's not because you're not doing it right, it's just because it doesn't support it yet. The new Teams will make full screen sharing better, but it's still not going to get to the same level that present in Teams will do through the tool. So the other key thing is if it's not working, make sure you're not in Teams 2.0. All right.
So just as a full disclosure on my side, I am on Teams 2.0, which
and it is now working. Okay, they must have added the support for it. It was not working like a week ago.
I've got to say that Teams 2.0 is amazing.
It really is.
Just how fast everything works.
Yeah, the only thing, I think the one thing that is still not supported is third-party apps. I don't think those are supported yet because I haven't seen that pop up in the GUI, but I haven't looked in the last day or two, but that was not there. And there are some other things going to be coming. The thing that I love most about it is the ability to answer chats from multiple tenants without having to switch. That's been huge for me. And that's probably one of the best reasons. How do I know if I have Teams 2.0? That's a great question. If you take a look at your Teams client up in the top, if you look at it, you should see something that says the new Teams, and you can flip that switch unless your company has turned that off for you. So you want to look up in the top left-hand corner and see if it says the new Teams or try the new Teams. And if it does, then you do. If you're not seeing that, then you do not have the new Teams, and that is probably the best way to know. Unless somebody else has something else to add. Okay, let's talk about Loop. Loop is kind of cool and kind of funny at the same time and kind of weird. I have a lot of people say, okay, so I do not have it. Okay, either there's a few things that you can do. If you're working for a company, you want to see if they will turn that on for you because the company has to agree to allow end users to switch over. So they have to flip that switch. I own my own tenant, so I was able to do that by running a simple command key. If you have your own tenant, go online, and it's how to move your tenant into first release. Once you're in first release, you'll be able to do that. And if you go online, it'll show you the key codes you can do on your local machine or on your server to be able to enable that. Yep, let them know. Loop, we have now released Loop Spaces, and this was really the last of it. So if you have Loop turned on in your tenant, it does require that you have to have Azure, you'll see the Loop icons, which look like those funky little kind of backwards A, and that is the Loop icon. And really what Loop does is it allows you to create a bit of live code, a snippet of live code that you can take and drop in across multiple areas. So I'm actually going to steal and share my screen for a minute. So let me go ahead and do that. And I have Loop Spaces. This is a Loop space. that you can do. You can go, it's in beta, and you can sign up for it and get it. And here's what's cool about Loop. So I'm going to create a brand new Loop. I'm going to create a new Loop page. And we have some templates. You'll see project brief, team decision, project planning. I'll pick meeting notes and to use this template. And with this, I can do some cool things like I can update the cover so that it kind of matches whatever we're talking about. So that's great. And I can say, here's our topic. And our topic this week is what we're going to do for lunch. And what's nice is I can invite other people to this Loop element. So I could go to share this workspace, just this Loop component, or an access to just this page link only. When I hit @ I have all of the different people that I work with that I can @mention. So I could, @mention myself, for example, and say, please get nachos. And that will send me an email saying I'm now part of a Loop and I have to do nachos. I can insert tables, headings, checklists. And you're like, okay, all this is great, but what does that mean? And here's where it gets super cool. Is I can copy this as a Loop component. So I can either do a portion of this page, this whole page, etc. And I can paste this into Teams, or I could paste this into Outlook. What's great is if anybody changes the email that they've received in Outlook, this Loop page will change. If anybody has edited, if I drop it into Teams and somebody makes a change, anybody with the Outlook version or the Loop page version, it will automatically update. Unlike something like OneNote, which is static, other people can add notes to it, but it's not always up to date and people have to do it inside of OneNote, or Word, which other people can collaborate in that there's versioning. This is stored in OneDrive, and we could take just a piece of this and we could store a piece as an active element. And that's what's most exciting about this, is this idea that we have these really great active elements that we can do as we start to bring these things together and as we do it. So it basically is these code snippets that we can start to bring together, that we can add different bits of information to, tables, columns, etc., that are always up to date, that are always usable and working, and that no matter which platform we're using to view the content that's been shared, it is always up to date. So I'm going to stop there and answer any questions folks have on Loop. Any questions on Loop? How many of you have been playing with Loop already?
I haven't, but I'm going to start soon.
Yeah.
No,
you definitely want to. It's great saying, hey, let's put together an agenda for our next meeting, and you add people to it, and then everybody can do it. And what's great is you're going to see the most updated version. It's always current. You're not looking at an old one, and it's in whatever place makes the most sense, whether it's Teams on the Loop page or inside of the chat or an Outlook too.
I can also see it as being useful, like in a classroom as well. Like if
yes.
You're doing online training, that's thing, to be able to just throw notes in as well. So share like a shared notes type environment, where previously, like I might have done set up a Word document or something like that to be able to do that. But that's generally more sort of post access. Like that together collaboration is still not completely there. So but yeah, that seems like something that would be useful in there too.
And the permission around it, it's basically stored in OneDrive. So you're treating this the same way with anything you would share from OneDrive. So you're choosing who to share it with and who to let in. When you @mention folks, it automatically is adding them to the list of people it's now shared with. So that's the great thing too, is once you @mention folks, they automatically now have access to that, and it will show up wherever it is and say, hi, you were mentioned in this Loop element, in this Teams chat, in this Outlook, or here, and it will tell them to go check it out. It is huge. If you're dealing with EDU customers, if you're doing people that do weekly meetings, once they start to play with Loop, they're going to be like, holy crap, how did I not ever do this? And it works so well as part of asynchronous work where people will get it within the format that makes the most sense. It even works inside of the Outlook mobile client too, which is really great. And there is a mobile app coming for Loop, but right now it's Outlook, Teams, and the Loop workbook and pages, and it will be coming to mobile very, very soon.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome.
Let's go to our next one. I don't think we need slides for most of these, but I think we're good. Private channels. Who does not truly understand how private channels, Teams Connect work, or the difference between a public channel and a private channel, or folks who could use a bit of a refresher?
There you go. So I said
I don't.
doesn't.
All right.
So
I will
yeah.
share my screen then, and we'll take a look at this. All right. So let's go to my Teams app, which it's not showing. All right, I'll go here. This is what I'm doing for another client, but that's just fine. So when I go to a team and when I'm working in a team, there are opportunities to manage and create channels. And when you do it, I don't want to do this one. I want to do my own tenant. But for some reason, I'm not. Oh, because it's here. That's why.
Too many screens.
Too many screens. I'm going to, I don't want to stop sharing though. I want to get back to my main team screen and it's not letting me show it for some reason. I'm only getting the single. Oh, because I'm a guest. That's why. Let's try this. There we go. Awesome. All right. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So if I go here into a team and let's say I'm doing this internal team and I go to create and add a channel, there's a few different choices. So I'm going to call this channel test, which is great, and give it a description, but I have two choices. I have either a standard team, and that means everybody on this team has access to this channel. A good way to think about it is teams should be created around projects or OUs or security groups, marketing, sales, or it is our big XYZ project. And then each channel can be the individual projects that the different teams are working on. Or if it's a project-based team, each of the different teams, marketing, engineering, etc. So if it's sales and marketing has a team, it could be new launches, sales meetings, marketing meetings, brand identity. Anything that relates to those teams would be channels. If it's going to be based around a project, then it's a team as a project, and each of the different teams has their own channel. So when I go to create that channel, I have three choices. I can say standard, everybody on the team has access. Private, only specific teammates have access. So I could create a channel that says, I'm going to do a leadership channel. This channel is only for members of the company leadership, even though it will show up in a public team that is searchable and other people can find. No one will be able to see the information that I have set up in this channel or any of the chats or files that are stored in this channel. I also have shared. This is great if you're going to, this is part of what we call Teams Connect private shared channels. A shared channel is a channel that I create that I can allow other people that are external to come on into. Now, what's great about this is think about it as a sandbox. If I'm working with Kyle's company and Kyle says we need to exchange some data, then I'm going to set up a shared channel. Kyle will only have access to that channel and the content within that channel. He will not be able to see or get into any other channels or any other teams. Rather than give him a whole license for my company, it's much easier for me to do a Teams shared channel. And with this, all I need to do this is Azure B2B. So that aspect of, is this standard? Is it private? Or is it shared becomes really key as you're thinking about, how do I want to manage this? How do I want to do this? And how do I want to ensure that everybody can access this without a problem, where it's public information, it's confidential. I want to limit it to only a certain amount of people or only people within that team or that are working on this project, or shared. It's people from my org and another org, and we're going to be collaborating, but I want to limit the access they have. So, and there's always been a lot of confusion around that. I don't think we've done the best job in docs and other areas to talk about it. And that question comes up so often that I thought it'd be great to take a few moments and kind of talk about that. Any questions on it? Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, so it is Azure B2B that it's used. So it's not they have to have an Azure account or an Azure AD account to be able to be shared to.
They have to have an Azure B2B account in order to use Teams Connect private channels. If they don't have an Azure B2B, then you're going to have to give them a license and set up a trust for them to be able to come in and go do that. And that can get a little funky, rather than think of it almost like a Dropbox. Here's an area where we're going to chat, schedule meetings, and drop content. And what's great is you can make it so that people can drop content, but they can't take out content. They can't delete. It really becomes a sandbox that you're allowing that group that you're working with. I did this when I was at Microsoft and working with Atlassian on a project. It's where we would put all of our shared project, but that's all they could access and see. And it made it much easier for sharing content rather than going back and forth, because they weren't using OneDrive and they were using this. It just made things much easier.
Gotcha.
Any other questions on that? Because like I said, I know that can create a lot of confusion if you haven't really played with that, or best practices. All right, we'll move on. Next one is real-time translation and transcription. This one's gotten interesting with Teams Premium. Is everybody familiar with Teams Premium, and what is part of Teams Premium, and what Teams Premium requires? Would anybody like a quick refresher on Teams Premium? It's not listed on my slide, and I get that, but I'm happy to cover that if somebody says yes, please.
Yep.
Yes, please.
Yep.
All right. So Teams Premium is an add-on to Microsoft Teams. Teams Premium brings a variety of features, and I don't have a slide on this. I apologize, but Kyle, I'll get you one. I have a really good slide that kind of breaks down Teams Premium.
Sure.
And it offers features in 3 key areas. Number one, it is offering what we're calling the meeting wrap-up features and pre-meeting features, intelligence features for meetings. This actually comes out in beta, I think this month or early next month. And what that will do is, as well as doing a real-time transcription and recording of the meeting, it will actually, before a meeting, after a meeting, it will say, hi, here's the recording. Here is the PowerPoint that was shared. Here's all the notes, and here's any times you were mentioned in the meeting, and action notes and action items that were assigned to you. So it adds a level of intelligence. The second thing is it has a bunch of functionality around doing live events and webinars, including things like green room and co-presenters, where you can have an organizer that is not a presenter role, so that the organizer can add people as presenters and co-presenters, but not actually have to be a presenter. But one of the big features, and then there's some security stuff, like it can add watermarks. It can show you what the secure code is to ensure that the meeting that you're on is properly encrypted. But one of the big features is real-time translation was part of Teams, where you could, while someone was talking, say, show me the real-time real-time transcription going on, and put it into one of these 36 languages. You will now have to pay for that. Here's the thing, though, to be aware of with that. Only the person who creates the meetings needs to have that license. If you are attending a meeting and the person has Teams Premium, you will be able, through them, to leverage that green room, to leverage that secure meeting feature. The only thing you're not going to get is that post-meeting recap. Everybody would have to have Teams Premium for that. Now, inside of PowerPoint, this is the way around it, is if you are going to be speaking to a group where English is a second language and you know that, you can always turn on PowerPoint Translate, which you can use in real time. The problem is it's not going to work with PowerPoint Live, but you can have it translate in real time as you speak into any one of 36 languages. And the way to do that, and I'll go back to sharing my screen again, is here in PowerPoint, when I go to slideshow, I can say always use subtitles, and I'm going to say my spoken language is English, and the language that I'm going to speak in is Spanish. And I can now go here, and I will switch my display settings. And you will see that as I'm talking down here at the bottom of the screen, you can see everything that I am saying is being translated into Spanish in real time. The problem with this is that the end user can't pick a language that they would like to hear this in. You can only pick one going out. So it does limit some of what you're doing as you start to bring that together. But it is a great way if you're doing something live and in person, or you are teaching to folks in a specific language, or just want to bring English up on your screen and allow people to see that. That is a way to do that. But unfortunately, for the rest of that, that's going to require Teams Premium. Also, out of the new Copilot features, there was one about Teams Business Chat that will also most likely require a Teams Premium license. Beyond that, I don't know about the rest of Copilot and all of those aspects. Some of the other things, like the registration for Teams meetings, is still there, but some of the post-event reports for webinars and live events and all that are also now part of Teams Premium. So that's there. Any questions on Teams Premium? And it's about $7 to $10 a seat is the cost for it, roughly. I think it's officially $10 a seat, but depending on how many licenses you have or need, you may be able to get a discount on it. Sorry, been a long day already. Sorry. And
just to be clear, then, like for the majority of those, if you're the presenter, it's you that needs a license.
Correct.
Like basically, the person who's attending doesn't necessarily need that license, apart for some of that.
Right.
The post.
Yeah, if you're going to be doing webinars, all you'll need to have a Teams Premium license, and then you can leverage all those webinar features for any webinars that you do, and any people you invite as presenters, as long as you are the organizer or presenter, will also have that functionality, and the end users will be able to benefit from it. But the person who starts that will have to have that. So that's kind of key.
So I'm thinking from our perspective, like as trainers, if we've got that license, then if we're doing like virtual training, that's the thing, then
correct,
on like running a virtual classroom, then the folk who are attending would be benefiting if we've got access to that. So
absolutely correct. And then I'll share, I know we only have about 5 minutes left, so I'll share my last one, but this is also one of my favorites, and most people don't get that, which is, why would I ever want to create a meeting out of Teams? Why not do it out of Outlook? And there is a really nice benefit, and that is, I'm going to go here into a meeting, and here's what I have when I do it through Teams that I don't have anywhere else, is I have this thing called meeting options. So I'm going to click this, and it will take a moment. Well, what's it doing? That's weird. All right. Normally it just pops right open. It may be asking me to re-authenticate again, I have a feeling. Let's see. Anyways, I'll get all these options like, oh, that's why, because I'm clicking in the wrong one. All right, so I'll create a brand new meeting and show it to you. So let's do this. Let's do close, and I'll create a brand new meeting, and that's great. And I can call this test, and I'm going to make it for 3 o'clock my time. Great, 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock, whatever. So I can add my agenda here. I can pick a category. I can look at scheduling assistance. I have response options, require requests, allow forwarding, registration. But here's the best part, is I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now when I click it and open it, I'm going to see all of these cool options that I can now get to as I build this for response options. And I can even pick all of the different options for the meetings. I can even go in here and I can say, I don't want people to be able to, well, I haven't sent this to anybody. So let's add a requirement, and I'll add it to my personal address. Great. And I will send an update to that, which is nice. It's after hours, but in the edit, I'm going to get all these other choices. Now you'll see I have meeting options. And then when I click this, it's going to bring it up, and it's going to show me, this is where I'll see things like, don't allow people to turn on their microphone. Don't allow people to turn on their cameras. Don't allow chat. Allow people to come in without having to verify. All of those things are right there, and it's going to allow me to make all of those choices. And you don't get that in Outlook when you do. So if you're going, how come I'm not seeing meeting options? It is probably because you're not doing it through Teams or taking a look at Teams or going back into Teams to make those choices. You can even require registration for people in your org and guests and set that up, and it will actually go through and help you to set up a registration page for that. So there is a wide variety of choices that you can do. And you'll see, because I said attendees must register, I can now do a custom registration form. So I can upload an image. So I can say, great, I'm going to upload this cool image. Here's what we'll do is I'll go to desktop, consulting, and I will put in, the logo here for my new company. Great. And that's there. And how many people, and I want to add a title and a name. I can even add, different fields. Here, I can add speakers, input choices. I have just really great control, and this will show me what that page will look like. So if you're wondering, where do I find all of those meeting options that I constantly hear about, or that I'm curious on how do I, control these meetings or do this, go into Teams and take a look. And if you are the meeting creator, you should be able to see those options and do it. And I think that takes me pretty much to time, Kyle.
It does. It does. And I think Sonia might be typing a question. So we'll when that comes through, we'll grab hold of that.
Yeah.
Stephen,
I'll put my contact information here in chat. So if people want to chat more questions or teaching classes, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. There's good ways to do it through that. Sorry, go ahead, Kyle. What were we going to ask?
No, I was just about to lead to that. I said just about to say, if people need to get a hold of you or want to get a hold of you, how do you how can they do that? So Sonia's question is around how do you effectively use PowerBot with Teams?
Using bots or using Power Apps and things like that, there's a ton of great ways to do it, but that is, I believe, a whole talk within itself, and I'm probably not the best person to give it. But at its core, Power Apps are really about automating functionality, and bots are really about setting up smart ways for people to be able to be driven to information within your company that is pretty, standard. Hey, if I'm a new hire, where do I find this? Or where's our brand icons or things like that located for things that are static? And then if it goes beyond that, then it can actually connect you to people or do that. With Power Apps, you're looking at how to do things like, I want to do invoice approvals internally and automate that functionality. And that would be done through Power Apps. And it's a great talk. I can recommend some great people to come in and show how to create some simple apps and bots and approvals. But all that can be done to do. Isn't that something you can use in support? Absolutely. You could create a bot for support. And you know what the answer to most of the questions are going to be? If it's computer support, it's going to say, have you rebooted? That becomes the first one. And then if they haven't, it will do that and come back, and that will solve 90% of the issues. But yes, you can say, hi, I'm having an issue. Is it with software, hardware? It's with software. It's with Office. Which one are you trying to do? One of these? Yes, I'm trying to add an email. And it can take them to a help page and walk them through it. And if they come back and say, no, it isn't, great. Then it will put in for a ticket. But what I've seen is once you use automation, and I think the best use of it was Lego set up an automation for people wanting to create a new team. That when they wanted to create a new team, it forced them to pick from pick 5 out of 15 categories. And then it would show every team that also was made up based on those 5 categories and said, can you join one of these teams, as it seems to have the same use? What they saw was a 70% reduction in new team creation, or what we call team sprawl, and help people to find the teams that they were looking for more effectively. So using things like bots or things along that line, Power Apps, et cetera, can really help to reduce a lot of that time spent to do those things and bringing that forward. Unfortunately, you have to have a little bit of basic coding knowledge, but like I said, I'll work with Kyle, and I know a great speaker could come in and talk about doing some of this. And I will say that the Power Platform conferences have been packed, because this is one of the hottest areas for businesses and companies saying, we want people to be able to use it. I use it to answer questions in Excel. Awesome. Yeah. And you can go even further with that by using the bot framework and bringing it into all the apps rather than just doing it smaller within like an Excel spreadsheet or MySQL or something like that. Awesome. Thanks for inviting me, Kyle. This was great.
Hey, no problems. Thank you for coming along, Stephen. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll catch up at some point as well.
Yeah, Absolutely. And I'm certified in a ton of stuff. So if anybody's looking for help in certification classes or needs to hire me, I'm remarkably available right now. Working on a few projects, but I can always squeeze in a few more. So this was awesome. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate your time, Kyle. Always good to see you, my friend. Looking forward to seeing you in person.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Talk soon. Bye, everybody, and thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Stephen, for joining. That was really certainly appreciated that. It's always good to have someone who's got such an in-depth knowledge of some of the tools that we use, and certainly more and more now with online training and that sort of thing as well. So just to round out, because we are really up against our time, so we do have just a reminder of our instructor offers that we have available. So obviously, as instructors, you do have access to all of our to free access to prep for classes, as well as to sort of try for other bits of like other prep and that sort of thing. That you can go to the skillable.com/offers and sign up for that. That is full mock lab access, as well as we have the MCT all access, and if you know someone who's an AWS instructor, we also have an AWS all access pass. Now, what those all access passes are for our challenge lab environment. So that's the challenge labs, which now has over 1,100 different types of challenge labs based off different parts of content, and that we've got more of those being released every month. So more of those are coming out. The other thing that I have to make sure I mention as well, particularly because this is one of Christy's home projects, is as instructors, don't forget that you do have badges as well. So make sure you accept those as they come through, and your organization also has badges as well. So if if have a chat with your operations manager and make sure that they're also accepting any of the badging that we might be coming through as well. So just kind of gives you a little bit more of a presence, and demonstrates some more of the actions and that sort of thing that you've been taking as well. As instructors, just bear in mind as well that maybe you might be teaching for or training for different organizations, that we can bring all of those together as well. Which is exactly what Randy just asked. Well done, Randy. But yeah, so and Christy, I think, is putting the answer to that in. That was not set up, by the way. That was just pure happenstance.
That you owe me a beer for that one.
Yeah. So don't forget all the resources that we have available as well. Make sure you bookmark all of the various different resources we have. If you do have any feedback or anything like that, make sure you do go to feedback.skillable.com. We're always happy to take feedback, obviously, on the content, as well as any on the if there's things on the platform that might be bugging you, that sort of thing, also drop it into there as well. We are obviously we have our own vision for where things are going, but we also are very much driven by feedback from instructors, from operations managers, and that sort of thing. And then the final one is just a reminder of all of our socials. So if you do want to get access to us, then certainly there's ways to be able to do that. But apart from that, thank you very much for your attendance. Really appreciate it. We will be sending out at some point in between now and next month the topics and the dates for next month. Please feel free as well to share this to your other folk who maybe aren't on the emails as well. So forward it out to them. And in addition to that, if you are something else that I was going to say that's right, yes. So if you and what Christy just wrote, put the dot into what I was going to say, which was, if you are listening to this in post as well, also make sure you put some comments as well or some posts onto social, to make sure that you're reminding people about the fact that these sessions exist. We do kind of target, to an extent, mostly Microsoft certified trainers, but obviously that's not all the people that are on the platform, and also not the only people that actually find this content useful as well. So if you've got other folk who use the platform who maybe are CompTIA or AWS or EC Council type instructors, then make sure that you point them in our direction as well. All right, well, thank you very much for your attendance, and we shall see you next month.